I wanted to actually come to, you know, what happened after this, because you end up in these big films that had a lot of initial success. You just mentioned them: Election, Cruel Intentions. And you end up, of course, getting married and having children. I mean, Ryan Phillippe, of course, was your husband back then.
Mm-hmm.
You had
Great
2 children with him.
pronunciation. Great.
I had to look it up.
Okay.
What was it about having kids? Because it was unusual, I think, in Hollywood to have kids, in your early 20s.
Yeah, you think. There's parts of it that are private and personal that
Of course.
I don't really want to talk about, but I will talk about having kids at a young age. There was so much I didn't know, and maybe that naivete was good, because it's like, oh, well, I'll just do that and have a career. And I did have a few people say to me, this is going to be really hard on your career. And my mother was a pediatric nurse, and she said, I'm going to help you. But that was hard because she lived in Nashville and I lived in Los Angeles. So I went through everything that new moms go through, where it's sleepless nights and long days, endless bottle feedings and breastfeeding and trying to learn lines and go to do auditions, but organize childcare. And but when I had my daughter, I didn't have nannies or help or anything. I had somebody who would come watch her 3 hours twice a week. It was really hard. There were roles I couldn't take. I wasn't just in service of my career. I had to sort of have this immediate balance of family and career. Being a mom and being a working actress. That's why it was also scary when Legally Blonde became such a big hit. I wasn't going to beg for parts. Parts were coming to me. And that almost made it scarier, because I wasn't picking and choosing what I would reach and strive for. It was like, it was more like, what will I not do? And so I had to put boundaries in at a very young age. It was really hard, but I figured it out.
I kept on thinking about that while I was sort of reflecting on this moment for you, that, you were this, at the height of your success with Legally Blonde and this string of successes, and yet you were married and had kids, and all your actress peers, that was not their reality. Was it difficult to be in a different part of life than perhaps your peers were?
Right. Yeah, that's true. You know what the most ironic part was? I was always being told by different people in the industry, don't play a mom, it'll make you seem old. And I was like, but I am a mom. I'm like, but I do think we've lost a lot of storytelling around mothers, because there was so much about our business that it desexualized you. So you couldn't be a movie star if you played a mom. And thank goodness that's sort of going by the wayside. But that was a big part of when I was in my 20s and 30s. Don't play a mom. No men will desire you, or nobody will want to go see that movie, because nobody wants to see a movie about a mom.
Were there people that you could turn to kind of help you with that balance that you were trying to achieve?
Well, I think as I got a little bit older, Jennifer Aniston was really helpful for me, navigating personal life and tabloid curiosity, and also shutting out all the noise.
You played her sister, obviously, in Friends.
Yeah.
And you're in the in the morning show with her now.
Yeah. We played sisters on Friends, and her and Courtney. I remember I brought my baby, Ava. Ava was only 3 months old when I was on Friends in 1999. And I remember Courtney and Jen coming to my dressing room door and knocking on the door and going, "We heard you have a baby." I was like, "I do. I have a baby." They were like, "Can we see it?" I was like, "Yes, she's right there." And they're like, "Oh my God, this is so cool." And I just remember them being so kind about it. And that kindness opened a door for me to ask Jennifer a lot of questions when I went through breakups or really public divorce. And she was just really always very generous with advice and care.
What advice was that? What are the lessons of having to protect yourself, essentially?
Oh my God, there's just hundreds of them. Well, actually, Jennifer Garner and I, too, are very close, and we would talk a lot about navigating public interest in our kids, and how we could protect them from pictures and paparazzi, and because they would be everywhere, all over the schools and all over the cars. There was always this surprise, somebody jumping out of the bushes. Or I remember at church once in LA, a guy jumping on the hood of the car, and on each side, 3 people pushing against the window, banging on the door when my kids were little after I got a divorce, and chasing us like it was a police chase down the freeways. It was terrifying. And the fact that we survived that, but I do think I think it was really hard on my kids. It was really hard, anxiety producing. And I regret living in LA during that time. It was too hard on the kids, yeah. And I know it feels like they're just taking pictures, but it would be like 25 people on the side of the soccer field photographing me and Ryan to see if we got along or we didn't get along. And there was a little boy and a little girl there. Yeah, I watched them chase Britney Spears, and she had 2 little children, and I had 2 little children. And I felt like it was this really unfair portrayal of her as a bad girl, but I was a good girl. And she was a mother, a young mother, trying to figure it out, away from home, being chased like an animal. And what that kicks up inside your body and what it does for you is very traumatic. And I just have incredible compassion for people that went through that time period and were portrayed a certain way by the media because of if they went to a nightclub versus they went to the playground. It was a very punishing time for women who were in the spotlight.
How did you explain that to your kids, and did you see like the effects of that for them?
Yes, my kids had anxiety.
Wow.
Really bad anxiety, and it was all external. It was you can only shield them from so much, but when they can go to the playgrounds and on the schoolyard, it feels like the world is chaos and there are no rules. And there was like this invisible barrier. They would never touch your body, but they would scream. They would yell things at the kids about their dad or me that were wildly inappropriate.
At the children?
Mm-hmm. Yes. These videos exist. And then they would only show the one part where I was screaming back at them, going, get back in your cars. Leave us alone. I'm not trying to garner sympathy. It was my life. I didn't know that was what would come with wanting to be an actor or a storyteller at that level. That's why when social media emerged, Jennifer and I got on the phone. We're like, oh my God, we can create our own storytelling. We can decide when people have pictures of our kids. Sign me up.
You felt like this was a way for you to decide how much and when and in what way you were going to open the door.
Yeah, it devalued that market. There was no longer a market to see pictures of my children because people were getting it for free.